Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we are going to take a look at Andromeda's Edge, and we are going to look at it from a solo perspective, meaning you need to have the expansion, the escalation expansion in here. So that's one thing you got to know. In the base game, retail game, if you want to play solo, you have to have that expansion with it so that you get the solo module. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you have, I do appreciate the support. Thank you very much. So as you can see from this massively full table, there's a ton of stuff going on in this game. No doubt about it. This is a pretty complicated game, but it has, in some ways, simple turns. But I'll kind of explain what I mean by that in a second. So what do you see in front of you? Well, this is a two-player game. We're probably a little more than about 2/3 through or so of the game. I'm playing against, I should say it's one player solo, right? I'm playing against a level 1 bot over here, and it's represented by the white tokens, okay? And they are controlled by these 3 sets of cards, and you're gonna roll a die at the beginning of each of their turns, and it's gonna tell you which of the 3 sets of cards you're going to activate, right? From your standpoint, you play everything identically to the way you would play the multiplayer. And so when you're getting the full experience when you play this solo, except I guess it's not, the board isn't completely as crowded, so to speak, but there's so much. I'll put it this way. This game does not seem flabby at all because as you can see from this standee and this standee over here, there are raiders all the time kind of pressuring you as far as where you're going to go. So this game does not feel open or loose at all from a standpoint of just having 2 players. It's got plenty of tension there. All right, so what do you see? Well, on the board, you have this Andromeda map over here, and there are basically 3 types of spaces you can go to. There are these spaces right here, which are the base spaces. And I'm not going to talk about any like optional modules or whatever, but these spaces right here let you do something. Usually it's like do this into this, or get some of these upgrades, or build a ship, or do a repair, or build a base. I'm sorry, a development, pardon me, not a base, a development, etc. And so those things are the more, I'll say, complicated actions, even though they're not very complex by themselves. And then there are these planet tiles right here, and basically when you go to a planet tile, you get to take one of these moons, and you can hold that, you can spend it immediately, you can hold up to 4 of them, you can spend it for the action or the resource or whatever it shows, or you can attach it to some of your module cards like you see over here, which will activate or give you some other bonuses or other benefits, or you can put it over here and use it if you lose a battle. Instead of taking a tactic card, you could take this action right there. And so there are a variety of things you can do with those. Also, sometimes these things will give you bonus resources, but the real reason you're trying to get to these planets is you're trying to establish with your transport a space to build one of those developments I was talking about. And you can see here, this standee, that standee, those are all developments that have been built. And that's a major way to score in this game, is to build a development by spending leaders from your leader pool and resources. It gives you some type of special card, like for instance, this city card. When you build this development, you can take any one of these modules that you want, okay? And the other thing it does is scores you a ton of points based on the leaders that are around you, the leaders that have built previous developments. And so it's a big way to score in the game. And that's really a lot of the reason for the planets. And then there's these nebula spaces over here. And these nebula spaces you can only go to if you have the voyage action. And they do a couple of different things. They let you look at the event deck, which is really helpful. And you get a peek at the event deck. And the reason that's helpful is you are going to score a lot of your points in this game by what events are coming up. And so let me explain that part. Many of your points, I'd say, and I'm not 100% sure, I've done the math, but it seems like 2/3 of your points are going to come from the interaction when you score with the event card. So in this case, it's going to, this was an event I got previously, you're going to score the points listed where you are on this trade track or the economy track minus any of your modules that are damaged, 1 point per damaged module. And so you'll look over here and you'll see, okay, well, I'm at 9 and I have no damage, so I'd score 9 points when this event comes up. But the AI is at 9, but they have 3 damaged modules over here, and so they would only score 6. So knowing what's coming is very important, and that's why going to these nebula spaces can be really good. Now, ironically speaking, I haven't been able to get my act together enough to go to them because I haven't built the science vessel that I need to, because I've been focusing on trying to deal with this very aggressive bot. But anyway, now what are these modules? Well, these modules, they come in 4 different types, and every time you buy one, you go up on these tracks. When you go up on the track, you're going to unlock different things. They might be ship abilities, they might be moving the event faster, they could be some of these tokens that you would use, these one-time tokens. They might let you increase your hand size of tactic cards, or do things at the end of the game with regards to leftover resources. But this center one here, this one is solely built around your winning battles. And you're going to have a lot of battles in this game when you are in range of a raider. And so to go up on this track, you need to win a lot of battles. And you can tell how successful the bot has been getting himself out of trouble. They're very aggressive. Okay, so that's kind of what you've got going on here. All right, now the gameplay, like I said, is a little bit, in ways it's simple, and in other ways it's not so simple. So I'll put it this way. On your turn, you're basically going to do this most of the time, and sometimes do this. You're going to launch a ship. And what you're going to do there is you're going to put one of your available ships from here onto the board. And in doing so, you're going to take the action of that space that you went to. And then if one of the raiders is in the space or in range with you, you're going to have a battle. And the bot could join in the battle, and that's when it can get kind of complex. But if you aren't in range, you basically just take the action, and that's it. It's very simple, kind of like a worker placement. When you don't have any ships to deploy, you do a return to station action. And in a return to station action, you're going to bring your ships back, and that's how you activate these modules, which I'll talk about in more detail here in a second. So I've given you kind of an overview. I think the best way to actually demonstrate the game, or at least get deeper, is to actually play a turn or two. Because it's a very unique style of game, okay? So anyway, let's go ahead, or I shouldn't say style of game, but it feels unique. Let's go ahead and take a turn. So I have only this transport available to me right now. I had built a Terminator, and he's already out there. So when I place my next ship, I have to go to a place that does not have any other ships in the area that are mine, and I have to be within range of the Terminator, okay? And his range is 2. So I can actually be, you can go to a lot of different spots here, but just for general showmanship, I'm just going to show you kind of a little bit about what this game would be like. Let me go to this planet over here. The problem with that is it's not really going to be all that helpful. Well, I'll do it anyway. So I'm going to go to this planet right here, okay? That is within range of my ship. And I immediately will get one of these tokens, this moon token, and I can spend it right now for the resource, or I can hold on to it. I'm going to hold on to it in case I want to slot it someplace else. And then I look, am I in range of any of the raiders? And yes, I am. I'm in range of this saucer because he's right here. So he's going to come and attack me. And since I am in range of the heavy warship of the Unity player, he's going to attack me. And then I can figure out if I want to join, if any other one of these want to join in the battle, okay? And I actually do. I'm going to bring him in, and I'll show you why in a second. So let me switch this over here just so you can see. So basically we have this all-out one-round battle we're going to fight, okay? And the battle steps are not too complicated, but it does take a little bit getting used to understand them. So the first thing we're going to do is, like I said, I just did it, the escalation. Once you realize that a raid is going to happen, you see who wants to fight, and everybody's going to come to battle. that can. Oh, by the way, when I go to that spot, this should have been here from a previous turn, but this little guy goes here. This token doesn't really do anything except establish where the AI might move to next. Okay, so he comes here. So we're all piled into this location. And by the way, you completely complete the turn before you fight the battle, as far as what you're going to do there, which I did. I took a planet token. Now we're going to fight the battle. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is we escalate, which we just did. Then we do diplomacy. So each player in the battle may pass or play a diplomacy card. So sometimes you'll have cards, these tactic cards, and I don't have one right now that would say diplomacy over here, and you could play it, all right? And that might help change the battle for you or do something different. The bot always has diplomacy cards. It's just a full stack. And so he's going to do stand down. Oh, the battle ends. Each player, other than a unity, may draw one tactics card. So his stuff can immediately stop a battle like it just did. We're done. That's it. When the battle ends, nothing gets resolved. Nothing happens. It's over. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the tactic card. I'm going to finish up. But then I'm going to pretend, just for us. So here, I got this. Play after you roll dice. So this gives me some other kinds of things to do. So I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. All right. And the reason being is I want to demonstrate what a battle mechanic looks like. So what's going to happen is that you're going to take all of the battle dice that each of the groups is going to be able to use, and you're going to bring them all together and roll them all at once. Now, how do I determine the battle dice? Well, each ship has a certain number of dice. This one, the transport, rolls 1. My Terminator rolls 3. That means I would roll 4 dice, up to a maximum of 6. If I wanted, I could spend an energy to roll extra. I could roll 5 or 6, but I'm not going to do that for simplicity's sake. And then I would also look at what my targeting value is, okay? Oh, and also, if I had any of these developments that were within 1, I'd roll extra dice for those. But as it is, I'm not doing any of that because I don't have it. It's way over here and over here. Now, targeting is a number that if you go below that number, you'll re-roll. So targeting is usually equal to the number of physical ships you've brought into the battle with you, unless there's some type of modifier with them, okay? And I don't have any modifiers right now that I'm using, so that means that I would roll, like I said, 4 dice, 3 for the one ship and 1 for the other. And then my targeting value would be 2, which means any one that I re-roll, any one that I would get, I'd re-roll over and over again until I get something better than that. You keep re-rolling the targeting values over and over, okay? Which is an interesting mechanic. All right. Now, my opponent here is going to roll 3 dice, and so I bring in 3 of the white dice for him. So there's that. And then I look at the raider that I'm going up against. He rolls 4 dice, okay? So I'm going to bring in 4 dice for him. All right. So this is the dice pool I'm going to go with, okay? So I'm going to roll all these together. And then what you do is you compare highest to lowest after you've re-rolled any of those targeting value situations. So the targeting value for the raider was 1, so he doesn't get to do any re-rolls. So his dice are basically fixed like this: 5, 3, 3, 1. The targeting value for the opponent, the unity opponent, looks like this. He doesn't have any. He has a target value 1, so it doesn't matter either. But for me, since I have 2, I can re-roll these. So right now, if it ended right now, I'd lose the battle. I'll tell you how that works. But let me re-roll these. Okay, 5s. So what happens is the first thing you do is see who has the highest roll. Whoever has the highest unmatched roll, like in this case, the white, wins the battle outright. That's it. He has a 6. We have 5s. Done. Okay. Now you have some maybe tactics cards or other things that could happen, but that is how a battle usually resolves. Whoever has the highest, it's over. Now let's say he had a 5. Okay. Let's say it was like this. So the 5s all cancel out. The next thing comes here. I have a 5. He has a 5. So the raiders, they lose. So this guy's done. we go to the next set of dice. Whoever has the highest, or if you don't have any dice, you automatically lose. I would win with this 4 because my 4 had been greater than his 2. And so the dice mechanics for rolling for battles are actually pretty quick and pretty streamlined, and almost pretty interesting because you could get lucky and roll a 6, and everybody else, we even have a lot of dice, they might roll lower. And I like that because that gives even a single ship some hope, and it's not just always just getting clobbered all the time. But in this case, if it resolved like this, I would then get either my tactic card, because I would have lost, and same with the raider. So we would have both lost, and the Unity bot player would have won. He would have advanced on the red track. You can see how he's been doing that. He would have also gotten whatever reward was given out by the raider. In this case, because it is a situation, it's a little bit of a unique one, he would have gotten his 2 leaders back. I would have gotten 1 of my leaders back, just because this guy is like, he's a UFO and he kidnapped our leaders earlier. So the real reason you want to engage in these battles is to charge up this track over here and get the rewards over there. So you want to win. This is a very combat-heavy game. You really don't want to avoid battling if you think you have even an outside chance of winning. Because even if you lose, now this is what happens when you lose. Your ship will get booted off and go to the scrapyard. And what that means is that it won't be available to activate those modules later unless you spend a repair action to repair it. But it's off the board, it gets kicked out, so you lose the board presence, but it will automatically come back. So you don't have to pay to rebuild it. It just won't be available to maximize your return to station turn. And that's definitely a problem for sure. But in the case we had happen here, the battle's over, everything just sits right there. So none of that happened because he drew that diplomacy card that stopped it all. And so sometimes that can happen. He has a lot of cards that are like that. They just end the battle. So that's it. So then we would go to his turn. So that basically rounds it out. So again, we launch. It's got to be an unoccupied region for your first one. That wasn't my first one. That was my second one this round. It has to be within range, but not occupied by your ships. And that's an interesting thing. What that means is you could go to a place where other people are, not necessarily raiders unless you want to fight, but other people are and not engage in the battle, as long as your second move, okay? And so then you'd activate the region like we did, taking the in this case, the moon. You would then do the raider strike, see if there's going to be a fight. If there is a fight, then everybody can join in, okay? But if there's not a fight, then nobody can join in. So player to player does not attack unless there's a raider strike. And then you battle it out like we just did, okay? And that's how it goes. Now, since that's over, my turn's done. Let's go ahead and demonstrate a turn for the AI opponent. So he rolls a 4, and on a 4, that means it's going to activate this card. He is going to move one of his guys in this spot, which you notice there are none, to this area. Since he doesn't have any of his units here available, he is going to return to station all the units that are on the board back here in numeric order, okay? Or actually, I guess it's in numeric order. But the first thing he's going to do is, because of this icon right here, he's going to move this token up on the event card, which is going to make it so that it's coming sooner for the event to actually happen, all right? So now he's going to bring it back. Now his stuff is a little bit different in the fact that he does not activate his modules, but he does different things. And so luckily, the player aid for the Unity ships, which is the Solo, is really good in helping you understand what they want to do. So the first thing he's going to want to do is build a development if possible. When he builds a development, all he has to do is have leaders, and he has to have a transport on a non-developed world. Well, unfortunately for him, this is a base, and this world was developed by me, so he doesn't have either of those conditions, so he cannot build a development. But if he could, he would look to see, let's say he was over here, he would see, oh, I need to spend 2 leaders to build this type of development, so he would build an industrial development right here, and then he would score based on the leaders that are still on the board and the leader values that are on these cards and the card that he played. And so that's a way to get a lot of points. Plus, they'll give him a card that will help him score a lot of points at the end, depending on where he is in these tracks. Because as you go up further, each of these developments will score higher on the point values as you get up into the tracks. Plus, that card would also help him in some other special way depending on the development. So he can't do that. So next, what does he do? He advances the command marker 1 space for each Unity ship on a region and in the repair bay, the repair barge. He's got nobody in the repair barge, but he has 1, 2, 3, 4 ships out here. So he's going to move around this little rondelle and do a bunch of different things as he goes around the rondelle. Okay? And so this is going to drive much of his actions while he is playing this game during the development side. So first of all, he's, like I said, he's got 4 ships, right? So we're going to take them back one at a time, and we'll move these around. So the first one he's going to do is put it over here. It's going to give him a trade module and a leader, okay? Now, a leader will come from anywhere that's been spent. I got to make sure of that because I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's from anywhere that's been spent. But luckily, these rules are pretty easy to kind of find what you want in them. They're laid out pretty well. The only thing that's a challenge is that they don't flow all that well. Okay, you think that they kind of hit the actions at the beginning, and then they sort of like tell you about everything else in a this, then this, then this way, but they don't exactly flow. So right now I can't exactly see what that says, but I'm not going to worry about it just for this tutorial here. But he'll take, I'll get it afterwards, but he'll take the cheapest one of these cards right here. It actually is damaged. So, wait a minute, is that, no, it's a trade one. He's going to take this one. So he's going to just put this into his area, and when he takes one of these modules, he's going to go up on that track, okay? And if he activated something, he would do that. In this case, he just qualifies for the level 2 yellow development. All right, so that was one move. Now we'll go to the second move, which is blue. He'll do the same thing with blue. And as he does these, goes around, this will slide down and refill because this does refill at each interval. Okay, so then this one goes over here. He moves up on the blue. Again, he isn't thankfully, doesn't have to worry about what all these modules do because that'd be really complex to run your thing and his thing at the exact same time. So that's 2. 3, he's going to advance this spot in the event once more. He's going to go up on this aggression track here. And he's at the top, so he's not going to move up anymore. And then he's going to try to build a development, which we just told you it could not happen, all right? So since he can't build a development, nothing happens there. And then 4, he's going to take this one over here. It's going to move here. That's going to trigger an event, which we're going to see here. So good, we'll see it all. All right, so this comes down. This goes into his area. It is damaged, so this is going to cost him some points. All right, and I will pause the video just to make sure and find out what that icon means. I just had a brain fart there. So this was just where you start. That's all that means. That's the starting spot for him going around. So we've done all of those things in regards to his activations. We're going to bring these off the table now. And we're going to put them back in their slot. Or if it's transport, we're going to go highest. I'm sorry, it's lowest to highest, right? So, yeah, lowest number to highest. So that means this is going to go 2 here, and this goes here. Why is that important? Because it depends on how full each of these things are going to be. So I moved, so this is 1 and 3. So that means that if he's taking actions in this first row, there's going to be 3 ships available. The second row, there's going to be 2. The last row is going to be 1. It's going to be how fast he will then bring back to his base to do those things. Okay, so we've returned everything, and I didn't give him any points because nothing was in scrapyard, so there's no compensation for him in that regard. Now, we're going to do an event. So, what I should have done right now, when this was revealed, but I didn't, just because I was talking, as soon as you put this on this spot, you immediately reveal a new planet, and depending on the planet, you'll set it up with whatever tokens match that card. And so that's how this board expands. Every time there's an event, you get a new planet out here. Okay? All right. So we did that. Now let's see what this event is. So the event is the energy surge. Okay, so both he and I will score based on our track amounts here, then minus whatever damage we have. Well, I don't have any damage modules. I only have 7, so 7 minus 0 is 7. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up that many points. He has 10, but he's got 4 damage right now. So that means he's only going to score 6, which takes him to 52. By the way, the game ends. I've chosen to play a medium-length game. The game ends when someone meets or exceeds the 60 marker. We will both play. We'll finish the round. We'll both play one more turn, and then we do all the end game scoring. Now, it also says D. D means that is the new raider that's going to come out. So I go to card D over here, and we bring this guy out. So this is our ion storm. It begins on the newly revealed planet. So there it is. It has a range of 1. It has a 4 attack value dice. It has a shield. It says when this raider strikes, damage all other ships in the active region. So that means that everybody is going to lose, not just the person at the bottom when he strikes, okay? So that's interesting. And then there's your reward over here. Damage all other ships. I'll have to get some clarification on that. Luckily, the glossary is really good with that, because obviously the losers are going to take the damage, but I guess that means the winners are going to get damaged as well, even if you get hit. Okay, so anyway, it says each player may activate their primary reactor. So he doesn't activate his reactor, but he has a special thing. So on the solo game event cards that are specific, that need to be swapped out, he will just gain a science module. Okay, that's what he gets as his compensation. So that's luckily very easy. For me, I have to activate my primary reactor, which gives me 2 energy, which I'm totally fine with because I can use energy for a variety of things, which I haven't gone into as far as the modules are concerned and everything, but here we go. All right, so the event is done. The turn is done. We then move this back over here, and you can see just what I said about turns being simple and complex all at once. It's a simple turn in some cases. You put your guy down there. Maybe you don't even do anything. Maybe you just take the action, and that's it. I shouldn't say don't do anything, but you don't have a battle, you don't have anything. You just take the action on the board. Maybe you put your guy down and you trigger a battle. You have to fight a battle. Maybe you can't trigger a battle. Then you have to bring everybody back and do that return to base step. Now, let me talk a little bit about that. So let's pretend that was me returning to base. I would take each of those things back off the board, and I would place them on these modules right here, doing whatever the action is. And if I was to activate the modules on the either side of these, I would also get those bonus tokens, not the tokens, but whatever they give me, okay? The moons stay out there, but I would get whatever it gives me. If I'm damaged, I don't get to do that. I just bring them back. But if I repaired them at a certain time in my round, I would still bring them back, but I would at least be able to use them over here again. And so that's the difference there, is that he got he got kind of like his wheel did his return to base compensation. Mine is all based on the types of modules I've selected and bought. Okay, but again, you can see how this game it's got a weird flow. I don't mind the flow; it's just different. Sometimes turns could be small, sometimes turns could be medium, sometimes turns could be very long, and it has me kind of questioning myself sometimes. Like, did I get everything? Did I catch everything? Okay, all right, now I can move on to the next turn. You know, but sometimes it's like you really have to pay attention and stay organized. And I'm glad they gave you this little token for the event card, because when you do it, activate it, you need to leave it on your thing as a reminder, like, hey, I'm going to have to do an event at the end of my turn. So that is the basic flow of the game. You're going to go back and forth, doing those 2 types of turns until somebody crosses that threshold or meets the threshold of 60 or further. And then you're going to basically play that, finish the round, play one more round, and then score everything. And at the end, the way you're going to score is going to be highly based on, well, I'll just show you. So you score on those tracks. So wherever you are here, you're going to get points based on the track you're on. So these tracks are so important in the game. So important to move up. And the main way you move up is by getting these modules. And the way you get these modules is by trading in resources a lot of times, by going to this space over here and that space over there to put them in your area. So that's a big part. You'll score your developments based on if they're level 1, 2, or 3. Again, also based on how high you are on the tracks. I'm not playing with any quasars or vortexes or anything like that, but there's things there. You'll lose 2 points for every damaged module. Then the solo doesn't, they never get any compensation for the tokens they get, so they'll get points at this point for those tokens. Then it goes to the vault, so you get 0, 1, or 2 victory points for each tactic card, up to 15 cards as determined by the commercial track. So that has to do with this spot right here. How many of those tactic cards do you have left? And then you get points for those. You also score points for any relics that you have, which is only if you include that in the game, which I'm not playing with any relics. Actually, I am, but I'm not really going to focus on that right now. It's just these modules, like this one in particular. Actually, let me see if I have one. It's part of the expansion. That's a relic. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about that. Leaders, so however many, you get 1 point for everyone that you have in the station, and then you score, the better your 2 destiny cards. So destiny card was given to you at the beginning of the game, and you can decide which one you want to score. Here's an example of the thing here. So you get to choose, which one do you want. And that kind of helps you to have some endgame scoring understanding as well. But I will say this, primarily, the points you're scoring in this game are heavily based on the tracks and heavily based on what those events have to do. But the solo bot scores a ton of points at the end, so you got to be aware of that because all those tokens stack up and they're huge. Okay, lots of stuff to go over. Now, I will say these player aids are fantastic. They tell you on the Unity side exactly how he works, what he does, the differences, how he works with development, his progress tracks, everything. Very nice, and how you score. And you have a similar, very helpful one right here. So what's good about this, had they not included this game would be very difficult until you memorized and mastered everything. This really helps you to distill what you need to know about playing this game from the rulebook onto here. So these are fantastic. They did a great job including these. It really keeps you organized. I appreciate it. The other thing I didn't really talk about too much is that there is a ton of asymmetry in the types of players and the leaders you choose, not the leaders, but your faction, and the way you play the bot. There are 9 different bot styles that you can play against, and there's a host of the different factions. I don't even know how many there are. At least a dozen, it seems. So lots of asymmetry in that regard. That also will have to do with your specific ship upgrades. So you get these ship upgrades, which you'll have one that's specific and unique to the faction, which is what my Terminator was, okay? So this was one that only works for the Mecharon Synthborn is what I'm playing. So you can get that. You also get 4 random ones that are basic, and those, as you go up this track here, you will add those to your ships and make your ships better, and you get free ships for them. So it's really kind of cool way to make it different. So there's just a ton of things. That, the modules, lots of variety. There's also a bunch of different raiders you can play with. So even though in one part it's simple, in everything else, there's a lot going on. All right, so let me tell you what I think about it. So Andromeda's Edge is a game for serious gamers, and that's all there is to it. For very serious gamers, it is a good, solid game. There is a ton of variety and interesting stuff to explore in here, but it's pretty complex. It's a lot to think about and understand and get an understanding of while you're playing. So what that means is this is a game that's going to absolutely benefit from multiple plays, which is totally fine as a solo gamer, but you're going to want to be able to do your due diligence and dig deep into this game and spend a long time with this game to understand the ramifications of the choices that you're making. Because how you score points is not, and I guess just say this, that the kinds of things that you work on in this game are not completely simple to see, oh, that's totally what I want to do right now. You have to be able to read the board. You have to be able to understand the raiders. You have to understand what your faction's powers are, how your modules are shaping up. You have a very aggressive bot who expands and who just hammers away at you. Very strong, tough bot, right? There's just a lot to consider. For somebody like me who likes heavy to, I'd say medium complexity and up games, especially with solo,
This is a great game for me. I really like it. I think it has got tons to offer. It's very exciting to play, but it was also very hard to get started with because even though the rules were very well illustrated and they did a good job, there's just a lot of content to go through. And I found myself having to go back regularly to try to understand what is this, what is that, what's going on, what's going on. I even used the Notebook LM to try to ask questions to the rule book so I could understand what the specifics are. For instance, end the battle. It never really talks about that anywhere that I saw too much in the rule book. Now, I could be wrong, I might have missed it, but I looked and looked and looked. But when you end the battle, it's over. Boom, that's it. No winners, no losers, full stop. Some of those details could have been a little bit better understood, maybe, or explained. But overall, I'm not upset with the rulebook by any means. It was good. It's just a lot to go through, and what that means is this is going to be a tough game to play after you've shelved it for a little while. When you've shelved it and you haven't played it, it's going to be hard to get back into, I think. Now, this is my first go around with it, so I don't know that. I'm just thinking to myself, boy, I can imagine in a couple of months I'm going to have a hard time replaying this game, which is a consideration, I think. And it was very much like that with Dwellings of Eldervale. Great game also by the same designers. But once you shelve that, it takes some doing to get back into it. There's just a lot of these things you have to put in to build the base so that you can figure out how to play this game. And that is a consideration. And also the turns, they can explode on you. And so you have to be very cognizant of what you're doing and the process of what you're doing it. So that makes looking up the rules and things in between a little bit harder, until you get that system down. But overall, it's not an impossible game, littered with heavy concepts or heavy rules. There's just a lot of interlocking mechanisms. So notice and understand that if you're going to get into a game like this, if you're going to look at it. I think the designers did a great job with a lot of things. First of all, the battles. I really like the battle mechanic. It's very similar to what we saw from Dwellings of Eldervale, but I also like the targeting. That's cool. But in general, without having to worry about tons and tons of modifiers, once you know how to get an idea of how many dice and how to do that, it's really simple. And it gives you this idea that I might get lucky and even 1/6 could, be all I need to take down this guy who's rolling 5 dice. Now, that's a big luck, but still, that gives you kind of a thrill in this game, I think. And you are compensated for losing, so it's not too bad, although it's much better to win the battles. When you lose, you can, depending on how you set yourself up, depending on the tactics cards you get or whatever, you can help yourself out, your cause out, and I think that it makes it easier to win battles in the future. But you also know, hey, this is kind of where I can pull in my ships, and if I get too extended, where do I want to go? There's a lot of things, again, to consider when you're placing your guys. And then there's a lot of things to consider just in general with the sooner you can get, for instance, developments built when there's leaders on the board, the more points they're going to score. Now, as people start to score and build up other leaders, that kind of balances a little bit, or other developments, pardon me, because those developments in the neighborhood will also score. But at a certain point, if nobody's built anything yet and all the leaders are off, then you're going to have missed an opportunity. So you are kind of pressed to expand and put those things up as soon as you can. But that then just denies you of a transport. So then you have to buy more transports so that you don't have little itty bitty turns, or you get the right flow together. Just a lot of things. The different types of ships. I told you about that, my fighter, but then there's the science vessel. That science vessel is what can get you to the nebula. There's the heavy cruiser. That one's really beefy, rolls a lot of dice, and can go anywhere. If you pay an electricity or an energy, you can basically have him go wherever you want. So there's just a lot of stuff to consider. So be aware, this is not a game you're just going to set up and play a little, dabble a little bit here. You got to concentrate, you got to focus, and it's pretty heavy. So if that is interesting to you, then this is the right game for you. It's very cool. The game looks great. Like, just the retailer version, I think looks awesome. I know that the deluxe version has all these minis and everything else and the storage solutions, and that's all fine. But I am totally satisfied with the retail components and the retail expansion. Like, put those together, and you have a really good solo game. So lots to explore here, lots to discover. There's optional modules you can add in if you want to put in more flavor and different things. But just a really good game, really good game. But I don't think it's for everybody. I think you have to be ready for this type of thing, and you got to be ready to really concentrate and be prepared. So, all right, so that's what I think of it. I really hope that this has been an informative video. It's really kind of tough to cover one of these games because there's so much going on. But I think just with the turns you saw, you kind of saw it all for the most part. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.